The timing couldn't have been more noticeable just as headlines began circling around Meghan Markle and her latest bold remarks. A personal message from Charles III quietly surfaced, one that many are now reading between the lines. Because this wasn't just another royal statement. It felt personal. And for many, it raised more questions than answers. According to recent reports, King Charles issued an emotional message at the end of his high-profile U.S. visit alongside Queen Camilla. While the statement was officially framed as a note of gratitude to the American public, its tone and timing have drawn attention, especially as it followed closely behind Meghan Markle's widely discussed comments in a recent interview. But that's not the whole story. The king's statement read like a farewell filled with emotion. He thanked Americans for their warm welcome and expressed that he was leaving a piece of his heart behind while taking a little of yours back home. At first glance, it seemed diplomatic, polished, expected. But when you look closer, it becomes something else. Because behind those words, many observers believe there was a subtle emotional layer, one tied not just to the visit but to family. Reports suggest that King Charles' message may also reflect his ongoing feelings toward his son Prince Harry and grandchildren Archie and Lilibet, whom he did not meet during the trip despite being in the same country. And that detail changes everything. Because suddenly, the statement isn't just about diplomacy. It's about distance. But what makes the situation even more complex is what happened just before this message. Meghan Markle had made headlines with a confident and unexpected response during an interview, where she spoke openly about her connection to Australia and her personal choices, including fashion and purpose-driven decisions. She didn't directly address the royal family. She didn't mention King Charles. But the timing of her remarks during the king's major international tour sparked immediate speculation. Some called it coincidental. Others called it strategic. And that's where the narrative began to split. Because when two high-profile voices speak at nearly the same moment, even if indirectly, people connect them. And that's exactly what happened here. Royal watchers quickly began analyzing both messages side by side. Meghan's tone was independent, self-assured, and focused on her own path. Meanwhile, King Charles' statement carried a softer, more emotional undertone, one that seemed to hint at longing, connection, and perhaps even something unresolved. But here are the key points. There is no official confirmation that the king's statement was a direct response to Meghan. None. Yet the connection continues to grow in public discussion. Because context matters. The royal family's relationship with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has remained complicated since their departure from official duties in 2020 and relocation to the United States. Over the years, interviews, memoirs, and public appearances have added layers to that dynamic, some emotional, some controversial. And that history shapes how every new message is interpreted. So when King Charles speaks about leaving a piece of his heart behind, people don't just hear diplomacy. They hear something deeper, something personal, especially considering that, despite being geographically close during the U.S. visit, no reunion between the king and his grandchildren reportedly took place. And that absence speaks loudly. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle's approach appears very different. Her recent statements focus on her own journey, her choices, and her values without directly engaging in royal dynamics. That independence has been consistent in her public appearances since stepping back from royal duties. But it also creates contrast. Because while one side remains quiet and emotional, the other moves forward with clarity and control. And that contrast is exactly what keeps the story alive. Social media reactions have been divided. Some see King Charles' message as a subtle olive branch, a sign that despite distance, emotional ties remain strong. Others believe it reflects a deeper frustration or sadness about ongoing separation within the family. At the same time, Meghan's supporters argue that her statements are simply about personal identity and growth, not about challenging the monarchy. And that's where interpretation takes over. Because without direct confirmation, everything becomes perspective. Still, one thing is clear. This isn't just about a statement. It's about what that statement represents. A father, a family, a distance that hasn't fully closed. and a public that continues to watch every word, every silence, and every moment in between. As the conversation continues, the truth remains somewhere beneath the surface, unspoken but strongly felt. Because in royal dynamics, what isn't said often matters just as much as what is.